Fantastic Four!
That was really bad. But can we talk about how great the score for that Fantastic Four trailer is? I did another Fantastic Four video last week, because there's a movie coming out and I'm excited about it. Basically, every other Fantastic Four movie has been questionable. This one seems like it's really leaning into the goofy strangeness that is the Fantastic Four, so I'm here for it. And if you've been following my channel, I've been getting really into making dice. One comment has turned into a total obsession for me, so dice are my thing now. And I want to start selling them soon, but in order to do that, I need a lot of equipment and a bunch of other stuff. So if you want to help me do that, and you want to help me improve these videos, then go over to my Patreon, support me. It's just $5 a month. That's not what you're here for. You're here because I made Fantastic Four dice. I set out to make 4 sets of dice based on all 4 heroes from the Fantastic Four, and they turned out awesome, but the journey was hard. So I'm going to guide you through the comedy of errors that was this project, and there's no better place to start than the beginning.
Flame on!
When I started, I didn't have quite enough resin to actually do the full project that I wanted to. So I poured what I had left. If you're a casual person, this resin's pretty good. It has a long cure time, which is not great for me because I'm impatient, but whatever. I had a pretty good idea of what I wanted to do for Mr. Fantastic and the Human Torch, so I started with those. I knew that the Human Torch needed to be a sort of fiery, glowy sort of situation. And Mr. Fantastic is more or less emblematic of the team, so I wanted a nice basic blue and white swirl. We wanted the blue to be a little bit more translucent and the white to be a bit more opaque, so that's what we worked towards. But we get a nice shiny blue because of the mica powder. Mica powder's so nice. And I wanted to do something similar with the Human Torch. And we wanted the yellow to be a little bit more solid and sparkly, so lots of mica powder there. And we wanted the orange flames to be the translucent sort of glowy part of it. So we got all of that mixed together, and I tossed it into the fancy new vacuum chamber that I have that doesn't really help that much with making bubble-free dice. It's probably not the tool, it's the way I'm using them and the molds. You want sprue-type molds for a vacuum chamber because you can pour on all the excess and you won't lose a bunch of stuff. Now, one of the important parts of making sure that you get the proper swirl and separation of color is waiting for your resins to reach the right temperature. If you do it too soon, all the colors kind of blend together. If you wait until they're around 130 degrees, you get some decent color separation. So that's what I waited for. And I really wanted these things to be perfect, so I went back to the vacuum chamber thinking I was being real clever by using it before I put the cap back on the mold. And it worked! For one of them. Unfortunately, it totally ruined this current iteration of my Mr. Fantastic dice. I had to start over from scratch on those because the mold was basically half full. But those Human Torch dice, though, they turned out almost perfect. There are still some minor bubbles and some errors due to the particular mold that I'm using, but otherwise those colors turned out immaculate. I mean, just look at them. They look like they're glowing flames. It was so perfect. So happy with me. Then we put Mr. Fantastic back on the shelf and moved on to something a little more inspired.
Even when you can't see me, I'll still make you believe.
This was the set that I couldn't figure out what to do with for the longest time, and then I found out about cloud dice. I'll explain what those are as we get to it. I also found that I had a sort of iridescent mica powder that glows the perfect blue just under the right circumstances, but otherwise makes it just sort of a little bit cloudy. So I mixed that together to see exactly how it would turn out, and it was a little bit more opaque than I would have liked for Invisible Woman dice, so I realized this could be my cloud insert. So I mixed a little bit of blue in there to give it a nice sort of iridescent glowy blue thing. It's still pretty translucent, so we kept using it. But on the next mix, I added way less of that iridescent powder so that it stayed nice and see-through-ish. So again, use the vacuum chamber to get out as many bubbles as possible because I really want to get my dice perfect. I want to do it. So I tried some new things with this particular set, and I almost got there. I was so close. They're almost perfect. I was supposed to do the same thing as I did with the other dice, waiting until the temperature of the resin was around 130 degrees, but I was feeling impatient, so 104 was like, fine, let's do that. As a result, the cloud effect doesn't work perfectly, but I'm very happy with how they turned out. So to achieve this sort of cloudy effect where it looks like there's sort of a cloud floating in the middle of your dice, you need, what are those called? Droppers? Pipette? It's a pipette! You fill the pipette with the thing you want to be the cloud, put the pipette all the way to the bottom of the mold, and then squeeze it out, swirling as you come up. and you get this sort of cloudy effect in the middle. I did that on all of the dice, and it looked like it was going to be exactly how I pictured it in my mind, so we were perfectly happy. Then I tried the new thing that made it almost perfect, with this sort of cap mold that you can get on Amazon for super cheap, so I'm sure most of you have this if you're just starting to make dice, you know, like I was a few weeks ago. With a cap type mold, you can wind up with a ton of bubbles on the one side, which my current biggest YouTube fan just roasted me for. Thanks for that, man. So on that cap, if you cover that with a thin layer of your resin, then you do everything you can to pop all those bubbles in that bit of resin, and then you put the cap on, it will help remove a lot of those tiny little bubbles on top, especially if you don't have a pressure pot like me. I need a pressure pot. Subscribe to my Patreon. But after these things cured, oh my god, these dice are beautiful, man. Almost completely bubble free, so everything that I did worked. And the way that they shine in the light is just so good. They're about as Invisible Woman as any dice set could ever be. And I will be using that sort of cloud technique in the future. But I'll be a little more patient next time with the temperature. Anyway, the thing.
It's clobbering time!
The thing was the next one that I struggled on trying to figure out what to do. I knew we wanted to make it sort of that rocky thing look, that color, but it took me a minute to land on exactly how I was going to accomplish that. So I acted like a DJ with my dyes and my mica powders to try and get like almost that exact brownish orange look that I wanted, but we wanted to do a sort of subtle dirty pour with these things. If you don't know what a dirty pour is, it's when you take your alcohol ink specifically and put a few drops on top of your resin without mixing it, and then you pour it into the mold. What results is you have that base color, and then you get these lines and nice striations throughout of the dye that you put on top. So using a sort of darker color, I realized that I could almost get a sort of crack-like effect in these things. Not exactly, because it's a little swirly, but I thought it would look cool. And I was right. However, my first attempt turned out a bit too dark and way too bubbly, because this was truly the last bit of my resin, and I didn't really have enough to even try to cover up the top and stuff. I was really scraping the bottom of the barrel, man, and resin's not cheap, so I had to wait to buy some more until I could afford it. So while this test proved that the concept could work, I had to start over, just like with Mr. Fantastic. Hooray!
Now for something truly fantastic.
After a full week of waiting to get new resin, I decided I was going to try the Envirotex Light that I see Ribinator using all the time, because it has a 12-hour cure time, and I'm impatient. And to be frank, it was a little bit cheaper than a lot of the stuff on the market, so I was like, yeah, let's save $1. And it was hard to work with. Because it has a faster cure time, it does a lot of weird stuff. But whatever, we jumped right into making the Thing and Mr. Fantastic dice right away. We knew what we were gonna do, so we mixed up all those colors you've already seen, tossed them right in the vacuum chamber, and man, the difference between these resins was immediately apparent, because Envirotex Light bubbled up way more in that vacuum chamber. I mean, like, it came all the way to the top. The other stuff that I used doesn't bubble up that much, but it turned out totally fine. I poured the Thing first because the dirty pour is just honestly way more interesting, and I was really excited that I got the color way closer to what I wanted it to be. Then we poured those good Mr. Fantastic dice. And I just realized I never acknowledged the toothpick thing. I put the toothpick in the D4 mold before I pour, because with this particular mold, I almost always ruin the D4 because that little tip keeps air in there. And if you use a toothpick, you can pull the bubble out before there's a problem. It's a bubble popper. That's what it's for. Then I do the cap schmear thing. I really wanted these to be perfect. I tried. Success is relative, you know, honestly. I did buy a second mold, but the cap on it kind of bows out on the edges, so I just put one on top of the other to be kind of like a weight thing. I need a better thing for that. So they came out kind of secured together. But we opened up those Thing dice first, and I was so happy. The color was perfect and they were a little bit sparkly, but I really didn't care. All of the little lines that went throughout didn't really look like cracks, but they definitely emphasized sort of the rocky feel to it. And I just had a feeling that once these things were like in a matte finish, they were really gonna feel like the Thing. And at last, the Mr. Fantastic dice came out of the mold. My first failure in this project, and they're really pretty too. They kind of look like fine china in a way, just because that blue and white swirl. He's got the goofiest powers, but I'm sorry, I couldn't do stretchy dice because that's a whole thing and it costs a lot more money. I wanted to, but you know, whatever. We get blue and white pretty swirly things. And then I had 4 sets of dice to polish. What is this called? I want to like tell you stuff. I'm gonna try and give you all the information as I go along because I came into all of this going blind. Polishing your dice is hard, and sandpaper can really f them up. But like you can see on this bookmark, you always have those little extra bits and stuff on the side that need to come off. So you cut that off with a knife, and then you're left with something that needs to be sanded and polished. Easily the best thing to use for it are Zona papers. This is just a series of polishing papers that goes from coarse to light. It's the same as sandpaper. So I ran all 4 of these dice sets through every level of these papers to try and make them nice and perfect. The only ones that didn't go through the whole gauntlet of the Zona papers were the thing dice. We stopped after the first one on every single face because we wanted them to look matte. So we stopped them early and then did the other 3. And it took so long. That is a lot of dice to do this with, especially when you have molds that make somewhat imperfect dice, so you have to do multiple faces instead of just the one. It was a lot. It stressed me out so much. Then when you're done with those papers, they're not totally perfectly glass shiny, so the thing that you need to use to accomplish that is plastics. It's the headlight stuff. So you just rub it on a little bit, go through all the faces like that. Also takes forever, smells real weird, but you know, it's worth it. They turn out nice and shiny, like, you know, dice. Now these are 4 very different dice, but we needed to bring them together as a team, and the best way I could do that is with the paint. We inked them all using a very Fantastic Four kind of color. They all got that nice blue feel to their numbers and stuff that makes them feel like a cohesive unit instead of just a bunch of disparate dice. It was a lot of work to get it all right. I had to re-polish some of the sides because the paint got on them. The matte face of the thing dice especially wanted to like hold on to that paint, so I had to polish a little bit, but otherwise they all turned out totally beautiful. And there we have it. Those are the Fantastic Four dice. Roll the credits, the movie's over. But wait, this is a Marvel thing. We've got end credit scenes, right? We have extra surprises that we did. Recall the footage from the beginning of this video, there was another color that I was mysteriously mixing. What was that about? It'd be a total shame for me to not make a Silver Surfer die for all of this work. So that's what we did. We took the big D20 mold that we have and we hate it so much. And we did a bit of a silver dirty pour so that we could get a nice swirly silver going on in there. When we opened it up, because we hate this mold, there was a big old void in the top. There's always voids on this stupid mold. I need better molds. Subscribe to the Patreon. But we fixed it. Don't worry, I fixed it, we polished it, and we painted it with the Fantastic Four blue because the Silver Surfer's not completely a bad guy. He's a complicated character. He's part of the team. There you have it. We have a nice big shiny Silver Surfer dice. Roll the credits again. Ah, you know what? Why not? Let's do another after credits scene, right? Now, if you recall the footage from the beginning of this video again, I poured a lot of that silver stuff, and I poured a lot of the blue and white. I wonder why I did that. It's almost like I had a plan all along. We got another cool mold that I absolutely had to try. It's a dice case. That's all it is. It's a case that holds a set of dice. And I just thought it'd be really cool to have a Fantastic Four dice case to go along with this set, even if it only holds one. You can mix and match them and it can be like a whole thing. I don't know. It's there. But the mold is actually pretty great. Like I said, I did a dirty pour and I filled up 1/2 of this mold with the Silver Surfer stuff. And I did my best to use that toothpick to leave a 4 pattern in the top, which turned out pretty nice, I think. And then on the other half, we used the rest of that Mr. Fantastic blue and white because it's the team colors. We had to. Taking them out of the mold was so satisfying. These things turned out beautiful. As a result, I have a totally beautiful Fantastic Four dice case that even has a nice 4 in the silver side. It didn't work out so great on the blue and white side, but whatever. I could get a sticker or something. The case has been sitting here the whole time in this video. What I love especially about it is that it has these spots to put magnets in. Now they're pretty deep, and the magnets that I got don't necessarily fit in there, so we're gonna do a video where I try and like hide the magnets in those things with some more resin. A beautiful little dice case. And that's it. Roll credits. We're done. The movie's over. But you know, we should get a third end credits scene though, because you know, we want long run franchise potential on this one video.
Which heroes will get my cosmic favor today?
I'm not gonna just do a Fantastic Four dice video while I have a mold for a giant chunky D20 and not make Galactus. I'm not an idiot, you know? Well, I mean, I am. But I have good ideas sometimes. And let me tell you, setting out to make this Galactus dice was a mistake. I had to wait for my big jugs of Envirotex Light to arrive to even begin trying to make this die. And if I had to do this again, wouldn't use Envirotex Light. So I knew I wanted this to be a somewhat spacey, nebulous looking thing. So we mixed up a little bit of black resin, some blue and some purple. Thought it'd turn out fine, but we made them a little too dark. I waited until they got to 130 degrees, which with Envirotex Light happens very quickly if you have a cup that's a lot more full than your other ones. That's really the main problem, is that in larger pours with Envirotex Light, the exothermic reaction happens a lot faster and more intensely. I really should have read the labels. There's a lot of things I did in this video that you shouldn't do. Can you go back and count the number of times I should have been wearing gloves? Because it was a lot. But I ran out of them and there were dice to make, so safety be damned. I want to be clear. Be safe at home. Kids, do as I say, not as I do. But I also got this glitter that I thought would make a sort of like interesting shiny thing happen on the inside. I made the mistake of mixing in the glitter before I poured. So all of it sank to the bottom of these cups. And then when I poured it into the mold, all of it sank to the bottom of the mold. And it was really interesting as it was curing. The thing got almost all the way up to 200 degrees. I mean, it was hot to the touch. You should not use Envirotex for bigger projects. Use a slower cure time one for the bigger projects like this, or do it in layers. I was stupid and impatient through this entire thing. When I opened it up, there was immediately a void, which was to be expected. My molds are not great. I need good molds. They're cheap Amazon molds that make stuff. Subscribe to my Patreon. And then unmolding the thing, it was clear I had messed up massively. It was dark. It was all this weird blue thing. I basically made the cloud monster from the Fantastic Four movie that I hate. And look at that. Just all of the glitter is on the 20 side. It is not a good die. But this is a lot of resin, so I'm keeping it to fix, I guess, because it's just so much. What a waste. So attempt number 2. It's another failure. We learned a lesson in that we got the colors right. They were way less dark. They were way more vibrant. It wasn't going to turn out like the cloudy mess that this frickin' thing was. We mixed it all up. We vacuum chambered away. We still put in that glitter, and then I f***ed up. I really wanted to not have a void on top. I wanted it to just come out perfect because that's who I am. So I'm like, all right, let's put it in there and do like we did before. We're gonna vacuum chamber it out before we put the cap on, which was working fine. Then I put the cap on and I'm like, I'm gonna vacuum chamber more. I don't know why I did that. And as I was vacuum chambering with the cap on, it cured. It cured on me. While it was bubbling, it cured. And the result was confusing at best. You get this weird sort of spongy, glittery thing going on top. And then I opened up the mold and I realized, oh my god, it's happening all the way throughout. But the colors are okay. So now, I've got big die number 2 that's a total mistake and won't do anything for me. And I'll be real, after this, I almost gave up. This is so much resin to just waste. And I am broke and I didn't want to do it. But I sucked it up and I decided to just go for it. Enacting all of these lessons that we've learned up to this point, I gave it my best shot. So we mixed the colors. We kept the glitter out until the end. We vacuum chambered it, and I made a mistake. I wanted to fix some of the bubbles on the Mr. Fantastic and Invisible Woman dice, as well as the Silver Surfer die, and I figured while I was waiting for the exothermic reaction to happen in the big cups for the Galactus dice, I could do that. I could pour a little bit of clear resin and some silver and fix those things. I did exactly that. I took the time to pour that clear resin into these molds and put the dye that needed some little bubbles filled in. And by the time I was finished, I checked the temperature on my big cups and they were at 150 degrees. We had missed the mark by a lot. We overshot, baby, big time. So I panicked, threw that glitter into just the pink, and I started pouring. And that black had already started to solidify. Pink and blue were still doing fine, so I leaned on those as much as I could. Just kept alternating, and the black just kept getting thicker and thicker and hotter, and I was literally burning myself trying to put the black into there without it sliding out in one big glompy chunk. The cup it was in was even melting. I f***ed up so bad, but I was still determined to try and get some of that black in there because I wanted it to feel like space.
Space!
And I couldn't see it being space without that, but the black really only worked on the 20 side, and as I was pouring it, I could feel failure, like, imminently. There was no way I could vacuum chamber anything to pull bubbles out or anything. I was just gonna wind up with another big-ass dead die. So I put the cap on, and I hoped. I hoped, man. And when I opened it, the top was, of course, full of holes and all kinds of problems, which was disappointing. But the happy accident of the colors really made this thing shine. I mean, the pink and blue swirls and, like, the sort of weird eye thing that's happening down on the 20 just wound up working pretty well for me. So I tried to do some repair work on the thing, and I kind of ruined it. Then I had to set out on this long journey of sanding and polishing this thing to try and make it perfect, and it wasn't working. I was failing again, and it was a nightmare. There was nothing that I could do to make that one side salvageable or anything like that. And then I had an epiphany. If I couldn't make this die perfect, and it was gonna look like it had seen some shit, I was gonna really make it look like it's seen some shit. I was gonna hack at this thing with my knife, give it all kinds of battle scars and stuff to make it look like a Galactus that's seen some shit. I inked it with a nice purple hue to really drive home that Galactus. I made all kinds of mistakes and stuff along this thing to make it look like it had seen war. And you know what? It worked, man. We wound up with maybe the coolest die in this entire set. It is an embattled D20. I'm gonna use this thing in a lot of my campaigns for the biggest dice roll moments. This is Galactus, Decider of Fates. He's intense. He's seen some shit. This is for death saving throws. This is for all sorts of things. And that one side has really seen some stuff. And that's all of the dice that we made for the Fantastic Four, and a dice case, I guess, too. It's cool. It's yay. But overall, I'm really happy with how these things turned out. Obviously, there's things that I wish I had done better, or wish that I could do better, and you can help me with those things by subscribing to my Patreon. Have I mentioned that at all in this video? But it would really help. I need a lot of equipment and stuff before I'm ever comfortable selling you my dice. Because if you're buying something from me, I want it to be perfect. If I'm making something for these videos, that I don't care. They can be imperfect. I can f with the angles to make it look nice. But for you, you want them nice. And I want to make dice for you. So please help a small creator out. And we'll probably even do some giveaways and stuff on there, because I make a lot of these things and I don't have the room to keep all of them. And every time I have excess resin, I make bookmarks with them. So now I have a ton of pretty bookmarks that could use some homes. So I don't know. But let me know in the comments what other sort of things you want to see me make dice from. Another superhero franchise, a cartoon that you love, a video game that you love. Anything under the sun is totally cool with me. I want to make what you want to see, and I can only do that if you tell me what it is. I think I'm going to make Scooby-Doo dice next because I love Scooby-Doo. Subscribe and all that to stay up to date. And thanks for watching. Peace.